You know who loves iZotope? This guy. Everyone here at Ruinous Media can't get enough of iZotope's intuitively designed plugins for audio restoration, mixing, and mastering. This year, make a resolution to yourself to say goodbye to bad audio and hello to super clear, wide, dynamic, clean audio using iZotope RX11 and the new Ozone 12. Master every track's potential with their complete 20-tool suite. Go to iZotope.com and use code FRET10 at checkout for 10% off. That's FRET10 at checkout for 10% off. And go to iZotope.com. That spelling is IZOTOPE.com. I'd like to welcome our newest sponsor, Schecter Guitars. This holiday season, go over to SchecterGuitars.com and see what high-quality goodies they have waiting there for you. Premium feel and unbeatable price. See why guitarists like Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse, Robert Smith from The Cure, and Ernie C. from Body Count all love Schecter Guitars. A wide variety of styles and builds with high-end components and affordable prices for touring guitarists. Built to last. Go treat yourself and try something new you've always wanted to check out. Schecter Guitars has it all. Hey, what's happening? Before we jump into the show, I wanted to see if you had any music on a hard drive. You have a band, you have a project, and you want to self-release your own music. Well, there's an easy way to do it. You can go to distrokid.com/VIP/-8 and go get your music up on all the streamers. You keep 100% of your royalties, and you can get 30% off by using this code. It's a great, easy way to get your music up on the streamers and share it with your fans, your friends, your family, your mom, your dog, everybody. Everyone wants to hear it. But go to distrokid.com/VIP/-8 HYPHENATE and send me the link. I want to hear it too. Send your mom the link. Send your dog the link. They all want to hear it too.
If I can continue to do this, continue to actually feel this, like, the passion of, like, creating music and, like, put out records, you know, that will be... That is like what I want my life to be, you know?
What's happening, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Welcome to Hyphenate with me, your host, Randy Randall. This is our show for April 16th, 2026. I hope everybody's doing well. What a warehouse fire we've had, right? What an interesting time to be alive. On today's show, I have the great fortune and opportunity to speak to Ahmad Wasif, who has a new album out now. It is called Super Consciousness. It is available where all albums are available. You can also go to his Bandcamp, ahmadwasif.bandcamp.com. That's IMAADWASIF.bandcamp.com. where you can purchase singles, the whole record. You can see everything there that he has. And then you can also go to iWasif.com. That's IWASIF.com. where you can get tickets to his shows, buy the record there. All the links are there. Also follow him on the Instagram at Ahmad Wasif on the Instagram. Yeah, it's a great record. It sounds really good. And I really had a great time chatting with him here. We talk about the first time I saw Lowercase somewhere in the 90s. And it was fun. Yeah, man, they're an incredible band. It was really great seeing them. And then getting to kind of know Ahmad over the years, seeing him around in Los Angeles and playing with the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and all the projects he has done. Yeah, it's a really fun studio. It's a really fun talk. Really fun studio talk. We do talk about the studio. We talk about making records, still nerding out. This is a great fun conversation that I'm really happy to share with everyone. I hope you're doing well. Be safe out there in the world. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. And, you know, man, go support live music. Go support independent art. And, be part of your community. Let me know what you're up to. You can write me hyphenatehalftime@gmail.com. You can also find me on the Instagram at Randy S. Randall. And where else are we? I don't know. That's it. That's where we are. I got a show this Saturday with my band Nervous Action playing at the Healing Force of the Universe record shop in Pasadena. We will be playing with Nate Denver, past guest of the podcast. Nate Denver is going to be playing. He set up the show, and also playing with Mike Watt, hopefully a future guest of the podcast. I'll ask him this weekend if he wants to do it. I don't know. I don't know how it will go. I know I was on his online radio show. Don't call it a podcast. I don't know, a couple of years back. But we had to do it through forget what was the thing we used to do. We had to do it through some site, and it was a pain in the ass. I had to like put money on it. You know, the thing where you'd have to like call using internet telephones. What was that thing called? I forget. Anyway, I had to like put money on my account and figure out how to call in. So I don't know. I don't know if I could do that again for Watt. I don't know if he'll. We'll figure it out. I'd have to re-up my account again and pay some more money in order to talk to him online. All right. Well, everybody, here's my talk with Ahmad Wasif. Hope you're doing well. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay sane. Don't let them break your backs. Ahmad, thanks so much for coming on Hyphenate. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hi, Randy.
Yeah,
how are you?
Good. So good to see you.
You too.
You have a new record. It's incredible. I love it. Yeah. Thanks so much for sending it over. I'm very fortunate. I got to hear it ahead of time. Tell me a little bit about what went into this record, and then we'll go back and talk about all the other music. But I want to kick it off there. I mean, it's a great record.
Oh man, thank you so much. Yeah, it's like I kind of wrote this record over the last 3 years, and the last 3 years have been. Obviously, like we've been going through some really dark times as a society and in the world. A lot of stuff weighing on my mind, and also then I was in the fires last year in Altadena. So it's actually like
wild,
kind of total miracle to me that the record is. I have the actual record in my hands now. That I can. That it's completed, but yeah, I think a lot of it is. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I just want to be able to succinctly put what it is that I'm trying to kind of convey in the album, and I think it's really just about transmuting darkness. Like that's definitely that's what I am focused on, and personally, and then also I think with my music, I just feel very like a strong pull towards being in the service of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that means taking the darkness that's around us and finding the light, finding the positive, finding the love in the world that does exist in these darker times.
Yeah, I mean, also just not being, we have to kind of we have to really acknowledge it, be aware of it. It's like you can't just really kind of like push it under the rug or keep it in the shadows. Really, it's something that needs to be communicated about and like talked about and more and more what I'm finding is like so many people are wanting to reach out. There's like a need for connection. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of the only way we're going to get back from like, it's like almost like we're in full on Devo mode now, in some way. And it's like I don't know.
It's a strange time.
I want to change things.
Yeah. I find myself often kind of rubbing my eyes like, I don't have time to research this headline, so I'm going to put a pin in this headline, and but the headlines start to pile up. I'm like, I don't know if I don't know how much I can process everything. There's so much coming at me, and so much of it is heavy, and it can become difficult to really just process this larger sort of state of the world. But I gravitate towards the creative anyway, so it's like, okay, this is something I want to be aware of this, but I also want to just keep creating work and keep the conversation going towards things that are within our power, and small communities, small actions that can lead, hopefully have ripple effects in bigger ways. Well,
I mean, you've always actually been doing that, from like No Age is like, that's like quintessentially, that's like exactly what No Age stands for me, you know?
Oh man, that's too kind. Yeah, we've always been trying, just sort of try to find what you can that's right in front of you and make a difference there. But you've had such an incredible career. You still have such an incredible career. I mean, up to this point, that brings you to this beautiful new record, Super Consciousness. That's the name of the record, correct? I want to make sure I'm like
correct.
Yes,
yeah,
Super
yeah.
Consciousness. Yes,
Thanks.
Of course, yeah. It's but where did this all start for you? Where did music first come into your life? Where do you first come from, and how does that creative spark really ignite in you in your creative world?
Yeah. Well, like I grew up in a musical family. My father was a singer, but he sang a type of Urdu poetry called ghazal, and I was very resistant to. Weirdly, that was like all I was really subjected to, like when I was growing up. So of course I had like a kind of resistance to it, but it was all I knew, and I didn't really. Rock and roll was like not something that I grew up with at all, and it was kind of. I was introduced to it in high school by this group of stoner kids that took me under their wing. It's like, I started high school really early. Like basically no one would talk to me the first 2 years of school because I was just this tiny little, like I think I started at 11.
Oh my God.
And,
why
yeah,
were you advanced through the curriculum? Is that what sort of where you're at? Is it okay, this is where you
I was forced advanced.
I see. You had no option but to be extra smart.
As is the way, but also as is the way with like, I don't know, I've talked to a lot of like other Indian kids from it's like this very ambitious sort of push on academics, a lot of that stuff, which also really fucks you up. It's like I barely even remember my childhood, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Like it's just like I don't even know if I really fully experienced a childhood, but. So the girls volleyball team was like the only, they were like the ones that would talk to me and like protect me while I was like, this tiny little whatever I was. But then, when I found rock and roll, it was just completely, I was getting past these records that were, the quintessential like triangle of like Hendrix, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. But it completely blew my mind, and I immediately was like, "Oh, guitar!" Like, there was like this beat up classical guitar that I had that was at the house because my parents were like junk collectors, like a lot of garage sale stuff.
Okay. So it's like a nylon string acoustic. We were talking about classical. Yes.
Yeah. Nylon string acoustic. There also was shortly after, like I would go to these garage sales, and I found like a Teisco guitar, one of those old like country western electric guitars with a lot of cool buttons on it.
Those have become collectors. Those were the pawn shop, $50 guitars.
I know.
And now you're seeing them go. They've become in style.
Yeah, but what weirdly, like there were some things that just happened, like synchronicities that happened, like. I was noticing a lot with like Jimmy Page's guitar playing, like how there was a lot of these alternate tunings. I didn't really understand that was like a sort of mode of playing. And then I happened to actually, one of the first records I bought was like a John Fahey record. It was like the Tacoma sampler.
Wow.
That's my. I just completely gravitated to that sound. Yeah, like it was because a lot of those tunings, were reminiscent of a lot of the Indian East Indian classical music that I grew up like listening to. So that was like kind of immediately what was drawing me into learning to play guitar. So I was like, I just basically locked myself in my room listening to all these records and was playing along to them. And that was like truly, it's like straight out of a movie, but the feeling of just being, the misfit kid in whatever town you're living in, and then you all of a sudden just find this shield and like this thing that gives you like some kind of power that you don't feel that you have in the world, and that you can't express,
That's incredible. And what part of the country is this?
I was living in the desert, so we were kind of like moving around, like around Palm Desert, like Desert Hot Springs,
Gotcha.
That area, and it was at a time when there was a scene happening down there, like at which I quickly got, like, basically the summer after I taught myself how to play guitar, I was at some house at a party, just like jamming, and this guy came up to me and was like, hey, like I want you to be in my band, and I like started playing in this kind of like weird, I don't know what, like just sludgy, like Sabbathy kind of grungy band or whatever. Yeah, you know, all of our first bands.
Sure, but there was a young Josh Homme sitting back there going, "Whoa, wait a second, this is what I need to do."
So this is funny though. It's like I'm not really friends with Josh like now, or I don't know him. He's not in my world. But so as a fucking 11-year-old, my first day at fucking high school, I get put into this honors geometry class. I'm sitting literally right next to the most strapping, huge, fucking, like
redheaded giant,
Roman, like giant, with a fucking leather strap around his exposed arm, because he was like a football guy, and he was in this fucking class, and like this is the first fucking person I'm like seeing. I didn't even know that he was like fucking Josh Homme, and that he was like gonna, you know, I mean, he was already doing Caius at that point, but it's like, so then, you know, fast forward like 3 years later in high school when I was a junior, and like I'd been asked into this band, and so we would go out and play those generator parties that were just like now kind of historic, and often go see Caius or play at a generator party with Caius. And I remember those guys like, it's funny, I was reading the Pentagram like, you know, story, and how like Kiss came to see them, and like the singer was like fucking 2 hours late because he was working as a janitor like somewhere, and had to hitchhike to get to the audition. And Kiss was like, fuck you guys, you're never gonna make it. But yeah, like I remember that Caius came to our rehearsal and watched us playing, and they were like, oh yeah, you guys are gonna come open for us at the Whiskey or something. And in my mind at the time, I was like, holy shit, that's like insane.
Yeah.
You know,
Instant
I was probably I was 15. That never happened, but it was like an interesting memory to have.
Paths crossing, yeah. I didn't know there was that connection, but once you said that desert area and that time, I'm like, oh wait, there might be something there. That's incredible. And then how soon until Lowercase forms into that? Is this several years later, or is this right around that?
No, that was it. You know, basically that sort of band that I was in dissolved, you know, for obvious reasons. But that was like another part of my story. It was like, you know, I graduated really young, and I was like supposed to go off to school. But then when it came time to do that, like my parents were like, no, you're like too young. Like you can't actually like go.
No shit. How did that happen, Mom and Dad?
Yeah. So I ended up staying in the desert and kind of experiencing my first massive disillusionment with the world and my purpose. And
that's the perfect age for that kind of stuff to happen, right? Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like we were just kind of weird kids, and then there was this guy, Brian Gerges, who I had known at high school, and he was all like, you know, super into like all this punk rock stuff. And he just one day like was like, yeah, we should start playing music. And I had never really thought about writing my own songs at that point, or what that even meant. I was kind of experimenting a little bit with like 4-track recordings at that point, not really, you know, fully, you know, understanding it. But so we started making music, and it was really interesting, kind of immediate chemistry and evolution process there. Yeah, I don't know. Like it was just a period of. It was something that I never really thought would like come back. But what's interesting to me now is that, you know, it's like 26 years later or whatever, and we just have started writing again
as Lowercase. Oh wow, that's incredible! I had no idea.
And well, we got asked like 3 days after the fires last year. Brainiac asked us to like play with them at this show, and I was like feeling so crazy at the time that I was like, you know what, fuck it, I've resisted this for like 26 years, I'm gonna just do it, because part of it was like I didn't know that that music was extremely emotional, angsty, fucking, you know, coming from a very raw place, and I didn't know that I could actually feel or express myself in that same way. And the interesting thing about it was that I realized that I just slipped right back into it. It was like I was writing the songs almost to be the person that I am now. It's like there's some kind of connection. I realized that it's like these are all like parts of me, and I've always kind of had a restlessness about me with like creating music. And I think that, I thought like Lowercase was only specific to a certain time, but it's like, no, I can completely like tap back into it. And it's actually quite like a beautiful thing for me to experience like now, because it's like we played some shows last year, and the last show we played was with Unwound, and there are all these kids there with Lowercase shirts and like CDs coming up to me and just being like, oh, hey, will you sign my CD? And I'm like, what the fuck? What reality are we living in?
Where did you come from?
Where did you come from?
That's incredible. I think I saw you and Lowercase at Cafe Aroma. Is that correct? Next to where the smell would have been, or Eagles.
Oh my God! Yes,
somewhere right there in North Hollywood.
Wow.
And the reason I had gone to that show was my older brother's best friend, Mike Featherston, was drummer number 3 in Chokebore. He was in between the Mario, or no, not Mario. Johnny Kopp, right? Or in between, two runs.
That guy was the guy that like he would tour with them, but he would drive his own truck with his drums in it, and like he would follow them around the U.S. There was somewhere in there. My brother's best friend Mike joined and was on the road quite a bit, and I think they must have had a crossover with you, because he said, "Oh, I'm going to go see my friend's band Lowercase tonight." Oh, cool.
And I had the benefit of being the little brother to a lot of musical experiences. So I was just like, okay, we're going to a show. This sounds great. And kind of being familiar with Chokebore and that sort of temperature of music they're making, and then hearing what Lowercase did, I was like, oh, this is a whole other, like, in my mind, just kind of thing being presented through that filter. I was like, wow, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved everything that you got. And so this must have been around, I want to say 98, 99. Would that be
okay? So that's like
timing somewhere in there.
Probably. I mean, I think so. That would actually be kind of towards the end for us, like of that initial phase. But I mean, a lot of that time, because it's basically my first experience outside of the desert was coming up to shows at Jabberjaw. We started driving up quite frequently to do that, and then coming to see shows up here, I think that was informing a lot of the music that I was influenced by, and what I loved about it was the immediacy of it, and just being able to fully express this, like all of this kind of like trauma that I felt like I was experiencing in my own world, and it was a complete way of dissolving it all, for even momentarily, like such a like kind of beautiful thing to feel. And, because it's like, I mean, we had a conscious kind of idea in Lowercase that was like, we were getting picked on by fucking jocks, and that kind of feeling. And then I personally, at the time, the desert was, like a super racist place to grow up in. And I felt like, there was never a day that I did not feel like I was made to feel like inferior or outside of something. And so we really had like a conscious construction of like, let's flip this. Like, this is like our, let's make this music, and it shouldn't have anything to, even though I loved Sabbath, I was like, I don't want a fucking guitar solo. I don't want to do this. I want to do something completely different, So, we definitely like, I feel like weirdly had that protocol like with our music,
Yeah, which was so much part of that time. You talk about Unwound, and there was this kind of the slow minored dissonance that I think was very much of that moment in time and place, and I could feel that. I mean, again, as a teenager, I was like, this is right up my alley. I'm just discovering, Unwound, Blonde Redhead, these kind of things are, sort of that college, post-Nirvana college underground music,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word. And I was really blown away by you and by the band, and yeah. And again, this is those funny moments. I remember, I think we were talking, or you talked to Mike or something. There was like some conversation happening outside on a sidewalk, and we were just like, this is so cool. This is like real. And I think there was so much of really instilled that ambition, or that sort of like, well, I want to do this. I want to be, broke, not knowing that, but I want to be playing in a band. What would go on to leave my life, live out of a van and just put everything on the stage and walk out of a show I just played covered in sweat. And just
Man, I had no idea about that, your connection to that. So that's really,
I don't think we ever talked about it. I know we've crossed paths in
No.
so many settings, in so many ways. I've always meant to bring it up. And, when we were
so
talking about
cool.
this, I was like, oh, I got to bring it up. I mean, I don't recall exactly who else played the show or how it happened, but I remember it was somewhere. It wasn't at the Smell, but it was like, then the next year I would go to the Smell for the first time. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I saw Lowercase right there. Like, it was like 2 doors down, from that area.
I totally remember that. I can't remember what that place was, and
Yeah. No, I remember. Yes, it was somewhere right in there. And so then, as Lowercase, dissolves, what comes next for you? Where do you go from there?
I mean, I was living in San Francisco, and I was like really, I was just fully in love with music and songwriting and trying to understand how, I at that point had gotten maybe more into, Leonard Cohen, Nick Drake, and, whatever, Dylan, Neil Young, those kinds of songwriters, and was like, I don't know how to fucking write songs like this. How do these people write songs like this? Like, how is this happening? And I became deeply, I'm a super obsessive kind of personality, with historical details and things like that. So at that time, I was just like, every aspect of that I was absorbing. And I was like, okay, like I have to learn how to become an acoustic guitar player. Like I have to learn how to do that. It's like volume is not the key. Like I need to actually learn how to express myself differently. And I did realize that through that process, it's like, if you could write a song like that and then amplify it, it's like the strength of that is incredible, I like went down to this guitar store and bought a Martin guitar, which was fucking, I could not afford it all. I had to take a loan out from the bank to get it. And it was just like, I didn't even know how I was going to deal with paying this thing back. And weirdly, like the month after I bought it, like I got this random check in the mail that was like almost in the full amount of the guitar. Beautiful. And so I was able to pay it off, and I was like, holy shit, this is
the universe is answering you. They say, we see you, we're taking care of you.
Yeah. But we like the last tour that Lowercase did was with Sebadoh, and I had an amazing kind of experience on that tour. Like the entire time, Lowercase toured with Sebadoh twice in the 90s. Both times I was really pretty terrified of talking to Lou and becoming friends with Lou, because he was like, in my opinion, he was like one of those guys. He was a songwriter that, and there's like a lot of fucking drugs around and weirdness and just awkwardness. And I think I never really talked to him. And the last night of the tour that we did, and it ended in Denver, or Denver or Boulder, I can't remember. Boulder, I think. And Lou came out. We were all supposed to get on stage and do a cover of Pink Moon by Nick Drake, which I was so excited about, but it was going to be like the bombastic version or whatever.
Of that,
yeah, exactly. But what ended up happening was like Lou got fucked up, and the drummer, like something happened. The drummer walked off stage, Russ, who I ended up playing with in Alaska. He walked off stage, and so there was like this whole thing where randomly the Nick Drake show did not happen, and everyone was really bummed out about the show itself. And afterwards, I was like, "What happened, Lou? Like, why did you do that?" And then he just kind of told me the story about how he wrote this song, Soul and Fire, and how the lyric appeared to him in a dream, and it was like the first line of the song was stitched onto a pillow. It was like Courtney Love gave him the pillow in the dream, something like that. It was like, anyway, it was through that relationship that I kind of like befriended Russ, the drummer of Sebadoh, and then after Lowercase quit, like we started playing together in this project called Alaska, and that was like when I was learning how to write these kind of songs that were based off of like, you know, songwriters and acoustic psychedelic music. I was really like sort of deep into that, and so we just kind of started writing like what would have been our first record around then. And then Russ ended up leaving town to come down to LA to work on a Folk Implosion record with Lou. And then Lou had called me at some point and he was like, hey, like, do you want to move to LA and help me work on this record? Like, I would love for you to be a part of it. And at the time I was like, fuck, man, Lowercase wasn't happening. Like, I didn't know exactly what my music was gonna, you know, how it was gonna shape up, but I knew that like if I moved to LA that I could continue to do Alaska and I could do Folk Implosion, and so that's kind of what happened. That's how I ended up back in LA, or down in LA, which
yeah, that's a huge opportunity, you know, kind of getting called up, you know, by Lou to sort of sit in on this next thing he's doing.
Yeah, and that was interesting. Yeah. Because it was like, you know, it's he seemed like he was going through a phase of kind of strangeness in his life, like a lot of people interested in his music, but also just feeling like that kind of pressure of like having to create for whatever, you know, purposes that aren't fully, you know, always engaged in the artistic process. But it was an interesting time. Like I really learned so much from working with him intimately. We would play nonstop. I would play with him all the time. We would play 8-9 hours a day, just fucking songs together, learning songs.
It's a crash course in songwriting, right? I mean, just that much time. It's also a good way to go insane, but exactly. At the end of that, you know, if you could sit your brain back together, you could probably have a fantastic ability to just craft any pop song in any style. You know, anything you've ever could imagine. I mean, that's sort of what that era for Lou, I think, was kind of like. It was sort of everything all at once, for better or worse. Yeah. Just a million songs, a million things all happening. I recently interviewed Aaron Espinoza. And I know he sort of figures into this era of the Folk Implosion world a little bit at that time too, and his songwriting, and Elliott Smith and this sort of world of LA in those early aughts. I would imagine that was your world as well, you know, recording studios.
Well, we went. I mean, the weird thing is, like, we were signed to Interscope. Like, the Folk Implosion was on, like, record was on Interscope, and we started working with this guy Mickey Petralia, producer, and love Mickey. He's a great person, but it was like that time period where I didn't really get it. It's like you were in a fucking studios just burning money. Working on a guitar solo for like 3 months while people were they were like, oh, I'm gonna go get a fucking latte or whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck, like, you know, and
this is post Natural One, post Kid soundtrack, post this is sort of world that Lou, you know, stumbled upwards into.
So there was like a budget for this record that, and we, you know, we were working on it. We finally we finished. It was a slow pace. Like, we finished like 3 or 4 songs and submitted them to the label. They took us out to dinner and said they love it. 2 weeks later, they said, actually, we're letting you go and we're not going to put the record out, and like you can have the remainder of the budget and keep the masters that you made. And it was like, okay, cool.
That's not the worst, you know, studio. You know what I mean? We've all heard so many worse stories than that. That's actually you know, you came out more or less ahead. Yeah.
It was actually like pretty great, because it's like, I remember it was like I got, you know, some money from that. I got like we got cast in this movie called Laurel Canyon. So it was like, you know, it was like the weirdest experience being 24 in LA and just like falling into that world that doesn't exist anymore, of like people throwing a lot of fucking money at you to make weird.
For 60 years, Heel Sound has provided innovative, professional, quality sound for stage, studio, broadcast, and podcast. Grammy-winning artists and sound engineers worldwide trust Heal microphones for their legendary sound. To find out more about the full line of Heal microphones and products, visit healsound.com. That's HEILSOUND.com. I'm using a Heal PR40 microphone right now.
Shit, and it's like, yeah, I didn't really kind of realize that was like, not going to continue in any
Sure.
way.
No, yeah, you never do. Yeah, especially being that age. It's like, I'll be 24 forever.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like Elliott Smith was around, and Alaska actually, we did an amazing tour with him as a duo. Alaska was Russ and I, and we did a tour as a duo, opening up for him on this West Coast run in a minivan with just him and a tour manager, and Elliott insisted on driving most of the time at fucking like lightning speed, and I was just like terrified the whole time, like that we were gonna die, like because it's like he definitely was not fully sober, and
sure.
So sweet. It's like I'm so he went into a truck stop once and he bought this red stained glass Cardinal, and he gave it to me, and I fucking don't have it. I lost it, and I'm always kind of bummed about that. I want to write a song about the red Cardinal for sure.
Yeah, well, and again, it's just songwriting 101. I mean, there's some I interviewed Larry Crane from Jackpot, Studios, and
I love Larry.
All his time spent, with Elliott, and I think I told the story when I was talking with Aaron, but it was that, the not so secret was, as immediate and intimate as Elliott's songs were, he painfully worked on them for months, if not years, if not decades. That these songs were
Right.
Little gems that were cut
Right.
and shaped and repolished and thrown away and recovered and rebuilt, and every little thing really. They're so beautiful and so immediate, but that was not an accident. This didn't just, scary, talented artist, of course. However, the work ethic was second to none. I mean, were you part? And again, with all of the lifestyle and everything else that went with it, but that just kind of songwriting work ethic, was that something you observed, or you were that rubbed off on you and sort of your process around them as well?
Completely. I mean, I've always had that kind of I think in my own personal world, like I've had that kind of way of working. It's like I wake up and like have to kind of be in that zone always. But yeah, it is painstaking. I mean, I definitely like have spent. I've realized that's like the course of it, like all thousands of songs, and then they become mutated into other songs. They become, it's like I've become more comfortable with that feeling, because at first I felt like, it's all part of a process of like completion, and I think that to me is like the feeling of progress in my world of like moving forward. I don't want to feel like stagnant, and I have to be sort of constantly be creating, even if it's, not for a specific purpose, like these things kind of fall into shape. I think every record that I have is really like sort of a reflection of a period of time in my life, really. But it's all, as I've recently realized, it's like they're all parts of me, They're not disconnected as I thought they were. It's like, trying to connect the dots with all this sort of music that I've created. But, it's funny, like this, one of the things was, on that tour that we did with Elliott, like, the shows were very weird. Like he would play so beautifully behind, backstage, and then as the night progressed, it would get like more fucked up, and like by the time he went on stage, it became this kind of almost phenomena of like seeing him being weirdly like egged on by the audience and just like threatening to break his guitar and not being able to like make it through songs. And like we played at the Showbox, and I remember that. He wasn't making it through his set, and his girlfriend at the time came backstage and was like, "You have to go out and help him." And I was like, "I don't fucking know his songs. I don't know how to play his songs." And she was like, "You have to go." So I went out, and all I knew at the time, because I was like deep into Neil Young, so I knew a ton of Neil Young songs, and I played like, it was like 2 or 3 songs off of Harvest that I played, and he just sort of sang, like was standing at the mic and sang those songs. And wow. I'm always like, I wish I could see I wish there was video of that or something. Like, I'd love to see that now. You know?
Yeah, and it was never,
Totally.
it wasn't documented, it wasn't recorded, never really.
I mean, it's pre any of that stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, an Elliott Smith, Ahmad, Neil Young, you know.
Oh my God,
EP.
I would love to
How
see
great
that.
would that be? Yeah, wild.
But you know, it's like, it's really like every one of these people that has like touched my life. Like yeah, like I don't think about it. I don't actually give it, like, I don't honor it enough, I think. You know, it's hard to kind of like think about it, because I'm like also very afraid of reflectiveness, too much of that, you know,
Well,
because I just don't want to ever like, I feel like I never want to like rest on something.
yeah, but it's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of life there. You know what I mean? At some point, it does
Yeah.
all. It sounds like in some ways you're squaring it up, and you're finding it's. You know, I think it's inevitable as we all age and as we sort of,
Yeah.
you know, dig deeper, we do find that kind of feeling. I was just talking with my wife about this, you know, this idea of the spiral. It's not a circle. We don't end up in the same place in a non-forward momentum, but there is this spiral that will happen, and not a downward spiral, not a bad spiral, but just as you move, you find the rhythm and the rhymes of those parts of your life. Like, how is this 20 years later that feels so familiar? Right. And what is this I'm going through? And I think there's, you know, in some ways, at least I guess more reflecting in my own life, my own journey, is like, have I gone back 20 years? Did I just regress?
Right.
Did I not progress in the last 20 years? How am I still in the same sort of place that I was? But
Right.
I look at it in this kind of way, and it's like, no, it's the energies will catch you. You're gonna recognize your location as you continue to journey. You're gonna see that it's still you everywhere you go. I mean, and that's the good and the bad. You know, one thing I've learned within my own sort of sobriety is that, like, everywhere you go, there you are. And that can be a threat or that can be a comfort, depending on what your relationship to yourself is. You know, it's like, oh no, why can't I escape myself? Or thank God I'm still here. It's still me. I didn't lose myself. Depending what part of your life you're in. You know,
Right.
It's great. And so then from in that era, and then Alaska, and where does Alaska sort of evolve into, and what evolve out of? How does that sort of round itself?
Yeah, so Alaska, you know, we put out two records, and I was kind of going through, I think, maybe my first real period of kind of severe depression during that time, and a little bit of derailment from drug use, and I kind of I feel that I was no longer able to like sort of connect to my source, and really fucking went off the deep end. I feel like I couldn't, I like could not, I just could not figure out who I was for a moment, and so I stopped. Like the whole thing just sort of like imploded weirdly, or exploded, or whatever, and kind of through that process, I started writing what would have been my first solo record that was on Kill Rock Stars, and it was like a very sort of vulnerable and introspective record, and like I went to Nashville and recorded it, and was just getting ready. It was just getting ready to come out, and then that's kind of when I got like also this call from like the IAS about them wanting like a fourth player in the band, and I would have always just been sort of always resistant to that kind of thing in my life. But I had seen them play, and I was like, oh, I feel like I know these people, like even before I knew them. Like I didn't actually even know them at all. Like, and so, yeah, like I went down and played with them, and it just like worked, like kind of immediately. Like there was no, it felt supernatural.
And that's rare, yeah, to sort of get into a room and everybody pick up instruments, and it's just the hand in glove. Yeah, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's speaking from my point of view, and I assume that's speaking from their point of view.
We'll go on
like,
record and say they all felt the same way. Well, obviously, you've been doing it this long. If it was an issue, they would have, they would have bubbled to the surface.
Right. So yeah, that was like, I mean, the timing of that was all really interesting. My record came out, and I was opening like all the shows, or a lot of the shows on the Show Your Bones tour, and then coming back out and playing with them, and that was, I was very conscious of keeping that. That's a difficult like sort of thing for me to navigate, because it's on one level you're experiencing, they're a huge band, and I'm experiencing that aspect of rock and roll world, but it's like I was like very conscious of like, this is not me, this is not my identity. And I think I've had discussions with them about it. It's like, they see me as an artist in my own way. It's like there's a respect there, but it's also like it can fuck with your head if you go the wrong way, where you're just like all of a sudden feel like entitled and like whatever, like it's hard to get back into a fucking van and go tour, after that kind of thing. But I'm not like,
the ego has to be held in check. You have to have a healthy relationship with the ego of it all, because the adrenaline you get being on a huge stage, and in the main band, and all the luxuries and comfortabilities that come with that. Despite your position in the band, a bottle of champagne backstage at a big fancy venue is the same no matter who's drinking. You're gonna feel that excitement and coming off of the stage, and then to get back in, to play to smaller audiences in smaller rooms, like, ooh, okay, you can feel it. You can feel it.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing, and it's like now it's like I played with them since 2006, so it's like. I've gotten used to that. I've gotten used to that feeling.
Wow. Yeah.
I know it's insane. I mean, it's actually quite insane. The tour that we did this last summer was really interesting, because it was like reimagining a lot of their catalog as kind of with acoustic, like more acoustic takes. Still keeping kind of the punk aspect of it there, but like there were strings involved and everything. And there's going to be a record, I think, coming out maybe next year of that as well.
Oh, cool.
But this whole thing of like, keeping the ego in check, that's sort of the idea of like super consciousness for me, is like actually getting beyond that, like being in a state of awareness beyond the ego. Because the ego is like, for me, it's a fucking constant battle of like humility and trying to like understand that you're just really one part of this world. You are one part of it, and your part of it needs to be pure, and it needs to be actually like coming from a fucking good place. Otherwise, we're not going to move forward at all as people together, And like, if I can like have that, if I can impart any kind of that aspect through my music, like I feel like that to me is beautiful, and like it's like profoundly fulfilling, like to feel that,
It's so cool. I mean, I think, it seems to me it speaks to this idea of just your relationship with your creativity, and having that ownership yet detachment from it. You know what I mean? Where you find yourself within your own, like, I'm creating this, but is it really me? I own it. It's my music. I'm gonna collect publishing and whatever other rights are granted towards me as the author of it.
Right.
Yet have this kind of higher, meta, in some way, relationship with, just being a messenger for some creative spark that goes through you too. Not to sound too, up your own butt about it, but but have that kind of feeling and knowing that, like, well, if you're really honoring the music and honoring your soul and your part of this creative expression, that it can happen to 5 people. It can be very intimate, and it can be very large, and the settings change. Almost like in that sort of, I like the way you said it earlier too, with that songwriting, like really just writing something on an acoustic, having as stripped down as it can go, that will if that's good, if the bones are good in the simplest form of that, with the melody, the lyrics, the kind of arrangement of it there, then you can extrapolate that. You can get as big as you want with it, as big and grandiose, and enough rope to hang yourself and go bigger. But the bones have to be good, and that's sort of, there's a simplicity and a craftsmanship in that relationship with songwriting and creativity that I think really shines on this latest record, on this latest solo record. You can kind of hear.
Oh,
that.
Thank you so much.
Where you're coming from.
Wow, I mean, thank you so much, man. Yeah. Like, you're such a great guitar player. Like, that's like, I'm like, that's, I mean, that really does mean so much to me. Because I honestly, like 2 weeks ago, like the whole process of putting music out into the world now, it's like, I was like fucking cripplingly paralyzed. Like, I was depressed. Like, I was so fucking dark about things. And like, it's like, I realized that it's like going back to this sort of this feeling of the grassroots, and like being able to talk to you about it, being able to share like my music with you and actually have it connect to you, like that is so fucking huge for me.
That person to person, kind of spark. Exactly. Yeah. We're going out there, we're passing out flyers, we're putting up posters at coffee shops. It's this kind of, again, that's that circle of it all. And it's like, but it's not there to serve you as much as it is it's I always feel like my relationship with music is like, it's like breathing, or it's this kind of just existing. It's a fish can't swim without water. I can't really live without making music, making something, whether it's for money or for fame or for just my own sanity. It's just, it's going to come out of me one way or another, and it's going to find its vessel, hopefully find a shape that'll make sense to the world at this place in time, you hope. Yeah. I mean, we should talk about this preoccupation with fame is like, I mean, I was fucking cursed with this thing by Kurt Cobain, like, because I saw fucking Nirvana at the time, like pre-Nevermind, and then just as that shit happened and changed everything, and like, I really like weirdly resent him, even though he's like so powerful in my life. I resent that, like being witness to that, like it just kind of fucked me up. Like, to see that. Tell me, like, what was it that you saw? For people that didn't experience it in that way at that time. I mean, I can imagine. I mean, it's like, seeing them play at the Palace, like, during the 6 weeks that, like, where Nevermind went from being a record to being a global phenomena, and then, like, seeing him in his, celluloid fucking beauty of like what he is, iconic fucking thing, like sailing through the air, just shredding, like playing those fucking songs and being a very young, impressionable teenager and seeing that. And then, I got kicked in the head from a stage dive at this show, and then woke up in a stupor. It's just like this kind of feeling of like, I've just always seeing that happen to somebody in the world. And like, that was the first notion ever the first time I was ever like, oh wow, you can like write something and you can do this in the world and this will happen to you. I'm not realizing that it's not something that you can actually like, it just happens. So it's like there was a spark. It was things lined up. The things aligned for that particular person at that particular time. Again, yeah. I mean, I was a young kid, and experienced it through the MTV sort of saturation that existed. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a powerful generational moment, but it sounded like there was a personal sort of siren call that sort of literally knocked you unconscious. In some ways. I mean, I had. Yeah, I just feel like it's akin to seeing like the Beatles at their heyday or something. There hadn't been an experience like that, but it took me a long time to kind of get out of that sort of the influence of what that music did to me, and you have to just sort of like all this preoccupation with like. Now it's like this fucking preoccupation with views and optics and all that stuff. Sure. And I've been completely fucked with by that. It has ruined, like, there's the aspects of it that have like totally ruined my, I was resistant to all this stuff. I was resistant to like having an iPhone forever. I was resistant to all these things. It's like slowly but surely, like this preoccupation with things has like
seeped into my world. And I was actually talking to a good friend of mine recently who said that, like, when I was feeling really kind of shitty about like things, he was like, by design, all of these fucking companies like Spotify, like, you know, whatever, fucking Instagram, they are preying on people. The reason, like, we know they're fucked up because they're not paying royalties and all that stuff, but like they're literally, their whole model is to like prey on artists, making them feel lesser than, like their shit is not good enough, their shit is not like popular enough to be, you know, liked, they don't have enough fucking likes, they don't have enough listens, all this shit. And you're like, it's mind-blowing when you think about it, because you're like, oh fuck, like I'm just like a fucking pawn in this thing, and like if I buy into it, if I play into it and I actually give a shit about it, I'm gonna fucking get destroyed, you know.
Oh god, yeah.
And so you really have to be very protective of your art, and you have to be very protective of it.
And protective of your mind too. You gotta,
protective of your
have
mind.
that shield up around your heart and your emotions. You're like, not everybody gets to drive this car around. This is not I'm not a taxi cab. This heart of mine is a very precious thing. I'm just not letting giving this over to any algorithm and say, hey, go ahead, kick me in the nuts as hard as you can. Like, no, wait.
Right.
You got to find your place in that sort of way, your value to the overall thing. I mean, it's so much. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but so much of it strikes me as this, at the best No Wage was doing. You know, and again, we were far from the levels of entertainment success that you could have, but we experienced, we had a few flashlights shown on us from time to time, and when we did, but things were going really well, and we would inevitably, we never had a manager, we never had a tour manager. We tried to take care of it as much as we could, and there's a lot of it landed on me in some ways. We split like division of labor. There's stuff Dean liked to do, stuff I liked to do, but I would settle for the shows. And so I come off stage, put stuff away. I'm still sweaty in a shirt, and I sit down, and some guy pulls out a thing like, well, and it's maybe the best show I've ever felt. You're in that adrenaline high. You're just like, wow, okay, this was great. I couldn't, you're still buzzing, you're still shaking. And the guy proceeds to say, well, it's a Tuesday, and, it rained last week, and we really thought there'd be more people here. And it didn't matter how big the room was or how small the room was. Inevitably, they thought they were going to sell more tickets. And even if we sold out, they thought they were going to add another show, and that didn't happen. And I remember finding a healthy sort of place of this, like, you guys are fucking insane. Maybe we didn't sell as many tickets as you wanted, but I'm the guy that just got done playing. I have even though you're giving me the money and all of whatever it is, and they would inevitably tell me how bad it was for them. And I just was like, I remember just this feeling, this boundary that was not normal for me. It wasn't coming naturally. I just instantly was like, that sucks to be you, man. I don't know. That sounds like that's a you problem, not a me problem. Like, I'm going to go ahead and take the check, not to be rude or not to be realistic. Like, the business transaction, whatever this was, I can't imagine, like, at the end of the day, all the shitty 9-to-5 jobs I had, the guy would be like, or if I went up there and got my paycheck, at Amoeba or that was actually a great job. It wasn't a shitty job, but the jobs you do, you're washing cars, you're doing whatever. And they'd be like, yeah, I really thought I was going to make more money. I just really like, even though it had nothing to do with anything, we never agreed on it. I just thought you'd give me an extra $100 for no reason. And that's basically what they're telling me. Like, oh yeah, hey, sorry, we're doing this. I was like, this makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't know. Sorry. This was the deal we had. You paid what you said we were going to pay. And if we made more, we would have made more. And if we didn't, we didn't. But I just realized the higher level of success we got, the people stayed the same. The disappointment, that guilt, that sort of, you're never enough. You sold out the 200 capacity room, you go to the 500 capacity room, you sell out the 500. They're like, wow, we really thought you're gonna, have more. Right. It was always more. And then you didn't sell 1,000 capacity room, and wow, okay, there, it's all over. Your career's done. And it was just like, so inevitably, I'm like, I can't let this happen to me every night. Because we're living and dying. We're out here, living out of backpacks. I got no friends. I have no relationship. I've destroyed my life with drugs and alcohol, and I'm just holding on by a thread and trying to live my best life that I can. And it's like, and this guy is going to give me a hard time about the 50 tickets that we didn't sell. I'm like, sorry, pal. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to sort of feel that that relationship to fame. It's like, you're never famous. You're never famous.
Yeah.
The most famous people, they want to be someone else. You know what I mean? Bruce Springsteen wants to be Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney wants to be Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly wanted to be Elvis. You know what I mean? You track down the level of, and that's, it's the game we do. We all kick ourselves. That ego is, you're the that relationship to ego. It's the self-hating narcissist. All you can think about is yourself and how much you hate yourself. Right. It's a terrible Mobius strip of depression and self-involvement that just can never satisfy. You'll never be satisfied.
This is totally true. I mean, it's funny because it's like when you're talking about that referential point of like everyone wanting to be someone else, it's like it's always someone that's dead. And so it's like we have this sort of perpetuating deification happening, and I think that's what like my own personal thing with like Cobain would be like that. Just fuck that deification. Like I don't need to fucking live in that shadow. Like I don't need.
Well, inevitably it becomes a death cult as well, because the only way to achieve that release or achieve the momentum of celebrity is to then sacrifice yourself to the gods of rock or whatever way, shape, or form that takes for you with drugs, or shotguns. But it doesn't work. That's not. There's no life. There's no life there at the end of it all. And what's that all about? It's too sad.
There is no life there. That's true. There's no life there.
There's no creativity. All the records we don't have.
We have to go in search of life.
Yeah, that Elliott Smith record that he would have written, this last year would have been incredible. And you know what I mean? I love the music we have, and we're all lucky we had it. But those 16 records he didn't make,
right?
That it's a thing to be. That there's a grief to have over that, and all these things. So I always think of there's a version of Kurt Cobain somewhere in his 50s just taking a shit on all of this stuff. You know what I mean? Who just doesn't care, doesn't care or did care, or he didn't get to do his techno. He never had the frosted tips with the bad bleached hair and the black fly sunglasses and the collaboration.
Well, he might, maybe he'll be like, he would have been making like medieval trap music.
That could have been great.
And it's an actual genre now. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Yeah. Medieval trap. All right, cool.
He would have had a jazz flute era like Andre 3000. Ooh. You never know.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
I would have liked to hear that record.
Yeah. Right? That's what I'm saying. So we have to live through that and make our own, and kind of take that road less traveled, or that, the theoretical road of what would these records all sound like, because we're here and we get to tell the story. And I think Buzz, from the Melvins always, has that kind of healthy relationship to it, where he just says like, he lost, and it's so hurtful. You're like, no, we love him. We love Kurt. He can't say, like, no, he lost. He's not here. He's not making music, and whatever your feelings are about Melvins, they have 42 records they made since then. Right.
Totally.
For better or worse, and they're all out there. And you can listen to them and you can figure out what works, and who knows which one of those, records is going to influence a whole nother generation of people like it did once before. So
that's true. I mean, that's I actually really just, I want to, I think that's the one thing like in my life, like I've realized it's like if I can continue to do this, continue to actually feel this like the passion of like creating music and like put out records, that will be that is like what I want my life to be,
Yeah. Again, it's incredible. I mean, I think Dylan is a great example for that. For the ones, who stayed through the weird 80s Christian periods, through the through all the stuff, and it's just, I think he's one of those real artists, in that kind of way, as he ages and gets weirder and weirder and disappoints people, but he doesn't really waver. He truly is following his id, and he's fortunate that he had royalties, and he has he's had a career and enough money in his pocket to really put his money where his mouth is and make the weirdest records he wants to make as an 80-year-old man. But good for him. I see that. I'd like to see that as an inspiration as I get older and weirder.
Yeah.
We should also be so lucky. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I really appreciate it. I want to make sure everybody knows where they can get the record and where they can learn more about you and follow you and all that. It's just as we shit on social media, let's make sure everybody goes and follows you, and let's promote this and tour dates, everything you have. I want to make sure we do that part of it too.
I'm just doing basically. This is interesting. I'm doing a record release in LA at Zebulon March 22nd, and have a really cool band put together to do this record. It's like Evan Taylor and Anna Becker from Habibi, and Kareem from Locust is playing synth, which is amazing.
Joey.
And my friend Garrett, who played record, but I think you call him Kareem now. He's full on Kareem.
I didn't know. He didn't correct me last time. That's good.
Yeah, but he actually said such a beautiful thing recently, which was every act of joy is completely revolutionary now, and like that was why like he wanted to be a part of the show. He was like, I want to be part of this and celebrate it, like, which I totally. So yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram. In terms of the record, like, so basically I started my own label to get all my solo masters back last year. It's called Voidus Records. But I am releasing this record on my label. And right now I just have like a limited run of vinyl up on my Bandcamp.
Great. We'll put a link to everything in the show notes here as people are listening to this. They can go click it.
Yeah, and I mean, beyond that, like whatever, I'm on Instagram and that stuff, but I'm trying to figure out a way to not be on it as much as I have been. But
yeah, it's still this world we live in. To make these deals. Fantastic, great. And then at other more shows. So there's Zebulon, and then
kind of working it out. But in terms of LA right now, just March, and I'm just gonna see. Again, this is another part of our conversation, but it's like incredibly difficult to sustain touring now, and so it's like I don't know. To do this record live does take a lot of parts. Like I can come play it for you on my acoustic guitar, and that's one version of it. But I had bigger ideas for the record, so I'd love to be able to take it out on the road, and hopefully that happens. But we'll see. Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, Ahmad, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Randy,
taking the time and sharing the story and going through it all. Awesome. There is my talk with Ahmad Wasif. How rad was that? So many good stories. Super Consciousness, Ahmad's new album, is out now. Go to iwasif.com. That's iwasif.com. You can also find him on ahmadwasif.bandcamp.com, as well as on the Instagram at Ahmad Wasif. And follow him, buy the record, and go see him play live. Awesome. Everybody, take care of each other, support live music, and have fun. See you next week.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it, because you're like, oh fuck, like I'm just like a fucking pawn in this thing, and like if I buy into it, if I play into it and I actually give a shit about it, I'm gonna fucking get destroyed,